In this episode, I invite you to come along with me to an ancient site. We're going to cross the desert and go to the heart of the Great Basin. Even though this landscape is desolate, there's a lot of life if you know where to look, always following the water. This site has been sacred to many tribes going all the way back 10,000 years to the Ice Age. Many different cultures lived at this site and also harvested crystals from these intricate caves. I'm going to explore these caves and look for artifacts inside, but if you know this site, please don't mention the name. I'm trying to keep this site low-key. We're going to explore around and I'm going to give you a tour showing you the wildlife, the geology, and explaining the archaeology of this incredible site.
Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here, and in today's video, we're visiting this place. It's one of my favorite places in the American West, and it's so archaeologically significant, and it's kind of one of my favorite places to visit. So I kind of haven't wanted to bring this site up. I'm not going to name it by name. If you see this video and you know the name of this site, please don't say it by name. Just say in the comments, yes, I know where that is. I love to visit there. This place was a well-kept secret. I've been visiting this place since maybe 1993. But people have been visiting this place since 10,000 years ago. Has a rich archaeological history, and it's not very apparent on the surface. And I'm going to interpret this and share this. But why this site is so special to me? This site has been sacred for many peoples, both ancient and modern, and it has been for me. At this site, I like to host multicultural tribal gatherings. We do fire dancing, we share legends and myths and ceremonies from all around the world. We bring people from all different cultures in. It's a lot of fun, it's very special, and it takes an awful lot to orchestrate it. But a lot of people have started to discover the site. A lot of people come out here on ATVs. Boy Scouts have been camping out here forever. It's a great place to camp because there's caves all over the place. And you know what? Also recently, there's even been people who have like remote control trucks, and they do big old competitions. They all camp out here. So it's starting to get discovered. Rock climbers. On the other side, there's a great panel where rock climbers love to hang out and climb. So it's starting to get discovered. And you know what? I want people to get out and enjoy nature. There's no fault in doing that. But I'm trying to keep the footprint down on this area. So I'm not going to mention this site by name. But this site, what is it? Well, again, it's had many cultures. So this thing is a big rhyolite formation, which is volcanically formed anciently, really anciently. And water doesn't travel through rhyolite very well, but it carves it and it pits it into shapes, into caves. And as such, this place is just catacombed all over with caves. Perfect places to camp in, perfect places for animals to stay in. Well, this area, this used to be an island. During the Ice Age, this region had a giant lake called Lake Bonneville. Lake Bonneville covered most of the state of Utah. And Lake Bonneville came all the way to here. This thing would have been an island poking up out of it. But Lake Bonneville emptied very quickly. At about 12,000 years ago, there was a natural dam that broke in a place called Red Rock Pass in Idaho, emptied the whole thing. Emptied out until it found the Snake River, carved out the Snake River Gorge, just like a mini Grand Canyon, and it made its way to the Columbia River and out to the Pacific Ocean. Nobody ever talks about this, but that must have had huge ecological impact. Having that much fresh water, a state worth of fresh water, a lake that was 1,000 feet deep and covered most of the state of Utah, that much fresh water going into the Pacific Ocean, that must have radically altered everything in the ocean. But nobody talks about that. But this place was then now, instead of an island, it was a big old monolith poking up out of what instantly became a grassland. Grasses are the first plant to colonize new territory. So in other words, if you have like a lake that dries out, boom, grass is the first plant that comes in and takes over. And then comes the grazers. Back then during the Ice Age, we had 6 different species of buffalo. We had 14 different species of antelope. We had horses, we had zebras, we had camels, we had llamas, and we had woolly mammoths and Columbian mammoths, the largest grazers that ever lived, that would have come up into this area. Now, coming to the spot, there's of course caves. That's going to attract people, but it got dry very quickly. And when it became dry, what happened to this area is this became a magnet because of its water. Water comes out of this and it trickles and it forms a river. There's a dry riverbed now, a wash that comes out. Followed it on the way up here, and it's not very obvious now. But all along this riverbed that would have just any time that it rains there, the water would have flowed down there. You would have had cottonwood trees. You would have had mountain mahogany. You would have had elderberry. You would have had chokecherry, willow, very useful plants, many edible plants. And it's going to bring in the animals. And the animals bring in the people because the people hunt. Well, all at the base of this, there are these big, giant water catches where the water comes down and then there's pits underground. And these pits, the water just builds up because it can't sink any deeper. And within these pitted areas, all around there was cottonwood trees and willows. And so people would come to this area, they would camp up in the caves and wait for the animals to come. And you could look down and see down in these desert valleys, you see here's a herd of buffalo coming, here's a herd of mammoth coming, here's a herd of elk coming. Okay, we're just gonna wait here in these caves, and then we sneak down in, shoot them. The earliest weapons would have been atlatls, and then eventually bows and arrows. So this was a perfect site. Now, most of these water catches, these seeps, they're non-existent anymore. There's one, we're gonna take a look at it, and it's still here, but the one on the other side that had all around it, it's all filled in now, but all around it, you can find sites where an ancient hunter sat down and flint napped a spear point, or flint napped an atlatl dart head, or a knife blade. All around this whole site, there are lithics. Lithics are when you are flaking, especially if you're percussion flaking, you're hitting the rock, taking flakes off, you're thinning down until you get your final piece that you're making. That makes debutage. Those little pieces are called lithics. There are lithics everywhere. Now, I've already been here today. I lost my camera and I had to film a bunch of B-roll with my phone. So now I'm backtracking and filming an intro now. So earlier I talked to a couple old men and who've been coming here for like 60 years, and they told me, oh yeah, back in the day, and I found this knife blade and I found this spearhead and these arrowheads. You still find these items here. But the thing that's interesting about this landscape, normally if there's an archaeologically significant site, it gets picked over. But this land, this rhyolite, the water seeps down and it covers it up, and then these tumultuous floods will push things back up. So every year, even the road coming out here, the road will be all rocky, and then it'll be silt, and then it'll be dirt, and then it'll be rock, and then it'll be silt, and then it'll be dirt. Same thing here. You'll go over a path and there's no artifacts. You come a year later, it's covered with artifacts. You come the next year, it's gone. Come back the next year, they're there. So it moves this rhyolite in this soil. It's not soil, it's rhyolite, and it just rhyolite gravel just moves things to the surface. So we're going to take a look around, and we're going to take a look at some of these artifacts, but we're also really excited because this site, there are caves, and people came here to harvest crystals. So we're going to see if we can find any crystal harvesting knives, because they're usually right in the sediment. People don't even know they're there. They climb into these caves, they're walking around, they don't know that 3, 4, 5 inches underneath there's artifacts of carved blades to cut these calcite and Herkimer diamond crystals out of these caves. So we're going to take a look at that as well. So who lived here? Well, again, the earliest people, you had Ice Age people like the Clovis people. And then you have people that archaeologists call the archaic, and basket maker 1, basket maker 2. I also know personally that the Fremont people were here. We're going to take a look at a Fremont hamlet, a little village. There's nothing left of it, but you can see the mounds where they used to be, and it's still littered with artifacts. We're going to take a look at those. We know they're Fremont because of the corrugated pottery. All those other peoples I talked about, they were hunters. They didn't have agriculture. But on the backside, we're going to take a look at where the Fremont people would have had cornfields. And for a brief time, there were Fremont people here, and they made corrugated pottery, they grew corn, and they cooked cornmeal mash in those corrugated pots. It's pretty cool to think that this site here, and archaeologists are not even aware that this is actually a Fremont site, but those corrugated pottery pieces, those few that have been found here, prove that to be the case. So we're going to go ahead and jump in, and we're going to start off first. We're going to go take a look at this Fremont site, take a quick look around and see if we can find a few lithics, a few artifacts, and then we're going to go hike up to the cave where I lost my video camera on the way, and I got it back, as you can see. But we're going to take a look at this cave and look and see if we can find any crystal harvesting knives in this cave. So let's go ahead and take a look.
We're going to start by taking kind of a drone tour around this spot. Going to take a look at this and give you a sense of what this place actually looks like. The really difficult thing on videos like this is it's hard to convey what a site actually looks like. Getting an above ground view is really helpful. Now, if we're looking down below, this is a very important site. If you're looking right here, this area circled in the red was once a seep. Rhyolite, LiDAR has shown that the rhyolite kind of made a catch here and water would fill in. So all around this ring, there would have been cottonwood trees in this green, cottonwood and willows, and this would have been a permanent source of water year-round. This would have attracted wildlife to be hunted. And if you look in this area that we're going to go ahead and mark in the blue, this area is filled with artifacts. You can see where ancient hunters would just sit up above and they would flake and flint knap and make spearheads and atlatl dart points and arrowheads and just wait for the prey to come in. All these artifacts are still there and you can see exactly where the people sat. It's pretty amazing. We're going to go ahead and go up though. Let's go further and we're going to take a look at an eagle nest. Now the eagles haven't nested here for about 2 or 3 years because the rabbit population has tanked. We've had a drought, but this nest is still plainly visible. And these nests get built year after year after year. This nest is about 6 feet wide. It's enormous. Now, if you've watched my channel, you're probably aware I train birds of prey. And I have worked with a countless number of eagles over the years, very familiar with them, and I keep tabs on their nests and do biological surveys as well. And golden eagles are remarkable creatures. They're the king of the bird world in the United States, even more so than a bald eagle. They're powerful hunters. They'll hunt rabbits, foxes, coyotes, sheep, antelope, and deer. They don't carry off the bigger prey. They just knock them over and crunch them with 1,200 pounds of crushing grip in their feet. The nests are not always as dramatic as the one we just saw. Here's another nest in Utah. This is also about 6 feet tall, but it's only about 8 feet off the ground. You can see the baby down inside there. And here's another nest that is just built right on the edge of a sandbar. And they nested for years and years successfully. This is one of the favorite nests that I like to go and visit. And you can see, again, it's about 5 or 6 feet tall. And you see the baby inside, just hasn't a care in the world. Even a baby this big, we're going to take a look and see the feet are enormous. So even a baby has a powerful grip and can do a lot of damage. So it's always a treat to see a golden eagle. And unfortunately, with the rabbit population so low, we don't see as many these days. Now, flying ahead, there's another raptor species right here. This is where prairie falcons nest. Now, prairie falcons are close cousins of peregrine falcons, and they're kind of the pirate of the plains. They're powerful hunters, but they like to hunt birds. They usually hunt larks, horned larks, and meadow larks, and small birds that pass through like Oregon juncos. And they've nested at this site for years and years. And they will sometimes nest on the other side as they choose. Now, looking around, you can see this entire site is completely covered with caves. And anciently, anybody could have camped anywhere. And flying over the top here, it's really remarkable to see. This is fun to climb. It's not as tall as it appears, but it's tall enough to have a very commanding view, again, for hundreds of miles in every direction. Right there is a raven nest, and they've been nesting there regularly for about the past 10 years. And cruising back around to the front side, you can see down below there, you can see that same circle area right in the center. That's where that ancient seep was, that so basically would have been like a pond, a year-round water source for anyone or anything who lived in the area. And again, because of that, there's artifacts littered in the area. There has not been an archaeological dig done on that, but I'm sure there'd be bones of Ice Age animals in that section right where the line's going through there. Now, great horned owls nest on that far side. Great horned owls are the second highest bird of prey in the area under the golden eagle. And so they nest on that far face to the left. They don't nest on the same cliff face as the prairie falcon and the golden eagle because they're very much mortal enemies. But again, you can get a size estimate and just a real feel for what this place is like. Now we're going to take a look at the Fremont village that was here. Right down below in this sandbar, there was a community of Fremont pit houses. Fremont lived from about 8100 to 1300. And right down, we're going to go ahead on the ground level and take a look. But if you see a little here, the green or the grassy area to the left and these grassy fields to the upper right, LiDAR has shown that these were cultivated, and this is where the Fremont grew their corn. We don't believe that the Fremont were there very long, maybe no more than 50, 60 years. But their source of water, you can see, we're going to go see this on the ground in just a minute. But we're going to fly in here. This is a seep on the west side. So again, earlier we were looking at where the seep on the east side used to be. But you can see it's kind of like a little pond, and it's only here because of how things are trapped, because of how the geography is. It keeps the water from seeping down in, and because of that, you have a year-round source of water. Now, we've had a drought for really since about 2001, and so there's not much water there this late in the season. This is September, but we're going to go in a minute and see it on the ground, and you can see it's still green. It still has some water, a lot of algae and things, but all the animals rely on this place for food. And then we're going to go fly back over. We're going to go ahead and cruise back over to that Fremont village site. Parked right by my truck there, the war pony. And we're going to get down on ground level. We're going to take a look and find a few artifacts. Now, Fremont live in pit houses, so once these disintegrate, there's not much left. Here's a reconstructed pit house at another site, and you can see above ground, there's not much to it. You can see a ladder sticking out and a little bit of dirt. And when you go over to it, you can see it goes down underground. You climb on down in, and you can see the beams, the timbers all around that hold up the earth. And I did a LiDAR scan for you. You'll be able to see that in a second. But you can see it's a cozy spot, very insulative. Keeps you warm in the winter and cool in the summer. This was really, again, from 1 AD to about 1300 AD. This was, for central and northern Utah, this was what people lived in. And when these fall apart and snow and sediment builds up and plants start to grow over them, archaeologists can tell a telltale mound. Now, everywhere, there are artifacts everywhere. I'm a flint knapper. I make stone tools. You can see there's kind of that half moon shape to a lot of these, kind of a crescent shape to the flakes that come off. People think it's really neat to find an arrowhead or a spearhead, but finding these actually will tell you more, because they tell you how they were made and where the person was in the process when they flaked off that flake. You can also tell the skill level, if they were a good flint knapper or a crummy flint knapper, maybe just a kid learning how. But all of these lithics are everywhere. And the fascinating thing is that there are stone of many different kinds, including types of minerals that do not come from this area. So we believe there was a lot of trade going back and forth. Here's a beautiful piece of agate, just a really nice flake. We call these lithics, and these are worked pieces of stone that don't have a discernible use other than they were flaked off of something that was being made, and they all have that crescent shape, that kind of curve to the flake, because they were percussion flaked. Now you look at the side, this is where one of the pit houses was, and this is another one right here. LiDAR scans have shown that. You can see there's plants growing over top of it now. But again, lithics everywhere, just absolutely everywhere. Most people don't think about these. This is a whiptail lizard. This is a fascinating species. Came across. These have parthenogenesis, so where they basically are all female and will fertilize their own eggs and just make clones of themselves. These are fairly common, and it's one of the biggest lizards in this region. Here's another really nice one. And this one's really pretty. Some dark, rich, thick agate. dense stuff, hard to flake. That one's really glassy, has a lot of silica in it. This would have been good to work. And this one's really pretty. It's got some striping to it. Would have been neat to have seen what they made. And this was just a flake off of the main source. But again, material everywhere. And this whole site, you can see this is another where one of the pit houses are that LiDAR scans have shown. And people are unaware. People walk right over, camp right over, and even drive right over. And these sites just remain totally unknown. People might pick up a lithic here and there and think, oh, wow, look, I found this. But they don't realize that they're right on top of a small Fremont village. It's pretty exciting. Not as exciting as maybe some of the Puebloan ruins, but again, knowing that it's right here. People were living right here. Men, women, children, living, laughing, crying, hunting, eating, sleeping, right here.
Right now, I'm in front of one of these seeps. This is kind of a catch. Now, it looks kind of like a pathetic version of a little pond or something, or maybe a spring bubbling up, but it's actually not. If you look behind, you can see the stone. The rhyolite stone has these big old pits, and the water coming all the way down eventually seeps through to here. It catches and it builds up. The wetter the year, the more water there is. It's almost completely dry, but this is where all the animals in the area are going to come and drink. This was here during the time that the Fremont people were here, around 1100 years ago, provided a guaranteed source of water. But any time, of course, that it rains, water is going to come down from above all the way down to below and provide even more fresh water. But again, in ancient times on the other side, there was this much larger version of this that brought in woolly mammoths and camels and horses and zebras and all kinds of megafauna. So this is left over. And again, for about 9,000 years, people and animals have been coming to this tiny little site to get water.
All right, now we're going to go up here and take a look at one of these bigger caves. This is one of the highest caves on the site. And you can imagine, people who just came to the site to hunt, knowing that this would attract Ice Age megafauna. If you get up here, you can see clear across the valley, and you can see if there's a herd of buffalo coming, if there's some woolly mammoths coming up the draw, if there's camels. You just camp up here, build your fire, you're nice and safe, and you can see forever. Now, people have been camping in this site for so long that carbon dating is worthless unless you find something underground, because there's campfire over campfire over campfire, and it's all intermixed together. We're going to cruise back and we're going to go take a look at a cave that has crystals. Now, pretty much any of these caves on this site can have crystals. And if you look here in the dead center, you can see, again, that site where the ravens nest. Now, this particular site that I'm coming up on here has become really popular with rock climbers in recent years. Prairie falcons used to nest here, but they don't nest here anymore because of the rock climbers. Ravens will still usually nest here. But you can see, again, there's some perfect alcoves, some great spots to stay in camp. Perfect place also for a cougar to just chill out and take a look at its environment. But all these caves can have crystals, but we're going to go take a look at the cave that has the most evidence of ancient crystal harvesting, and there are still crystals still sticking out of the rock. So we're going to fly around with the drone, and then we're going to scramble down into it. So after all these caves all over this site that are blatantly obvious, the one we are going to is actually down here. And it's a bit of an unassuming cave. For most of the trails, you cannot see it. Because I've been to it, I knew where to look and where to film and where to point and where to fly to. And of course, from this angle, it's pretty obvious. But this is actually a harder site to find at this location. It's kind of at a steep angle, and it's a little bit of a scramble to get in from the bottom. I'm going to be coming in from the side. But we're going to go check this out, and we're going to go look for artifacts. So I'm going to leave the war pony, and we're going to start a little walk. You got to think of this landscape in different terms. At the end of the Ice Age, this location would have had aspens and pinyon pines and ponderosa pines and fir trees. And then later on, if you look to about the Fremont time, some of those would have still been here, but it would have been a lot wetter. There would have been more trees, there would have been more sagebrush. Now we're going to go first take a look over here. This little rock alcove. A lot of times I find racers, which are a type of snake that hunts lizards. They're incredibly fast, but on this trip, all I saw was lizards. Didn't see any racers. It's September, so I think the racers are starting to hibernate. But again, these rocks, they just look so magical. They look like something out of, I don't know, out of the world of Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something. They're just magical how they're shaped. But I noticed up ahead here, there are some droppings of some kind and some pellets. And I'm guessing these are from a bird of prey. But they're conspicuously in one place. So we're going to go ahead and point up and look up. And there's a little alcove where whatever you've left these droppings was perched. Let's get a different angle here. And we're going to go ahead and see. And again, this is a pretty sheltered spot. Okay, this is a better angle looking up here. And we're going to zoom in on this. You can see that whatever is living here is perching and just stays out of the cold and gets some of the good morning sunlight to warm up, and it goes to the bathroom right down below. Now down below, these droppings have bones, but they also have beetle shells, which tells me that this is something that will eat both rodents and insects. I'm guessing that this is a screech owl. And I also notice over to the side here is a jawbone. This is from, looks like an antelope ground squirrel. So this is a small predatory bird, and it looks to me to be a screech owl. Screech owls do not screech. They coo like a dove. They're poorly named. They're about the size of a potato, but they're voracious little hunters. I love to call to them at night here at this site, so I already knew that there were screech owls here. It's neat to know where one of them likes to live and hang out. Well, let's go ahead and get across here. I'm going to get down in there. You can see from here now we're got a good view of where we're going to end up. So we're leaving this alcove, and we're going to have to cross this little wash. Now, during a rainstorm, this wash that we're crossing is a full-on river, an absolute torrent. The way that water is stored, it is believed that during the Fremont era, this wash would have had water year-round. And there's some choke cherry here. This is a very useful plant. This is good for making bows, good for making arrows, good for making atlatls, and you can eat the cherries, the fruit from this plant. Now, this is the section where I lost my camcorder. I had it, fell out of my bag. So once I get to the cave, I have to film everything with my phone. But I noticed up this little scramble here, it looks like there's toe holds carved into the rock. This could just be geologic features. You can't really see it as well as if you were in person. This wash would have been cleared out, would have had running water, the trees wouldn't have been growing out of it, and having these little toe holes to scramble up would have been very valuable. We see this same sort of thing all throughout Puebloan territories, where ancestral Puebloan peoples climbed up rocks. It seems to be the same thing here. Little toe hold scramble. I'm going to go ahead and use these, scramble on up. Now you can see the way that this landscape is shaped. It's just water and erosion. And the rhyolite itself is severely abrasive. So when a tiny little granule of this rock breaks off, then, oh, let's take a look here. I think I just saw a lizard run under here. Yep, there's a little agama lizard. These guys live all over the place here. They're really cute. So looking around here, again, this landscape is so sculpted, but again, it's the flakes of the rock itself, and as they come off with water, they form such an abrasive surface that they just carve and hit this landscape into just all these beautiful and tortured shapes. Now, it's pretty steep through here, and how do we keep from slipping off the side? by wearing Chacos. I'm sold on the Chaco sandals. I love them. They've got a good grip, they're solid, and I've had Chacos that will last me for years and years. We're just going to go ahead and climb on in the rest of the way, and you can see it's not a very big or a very deep cave, but again, it's archaeologically significant because this has so many stone knives buried in the sediment right underneath where people go in. Now, looking at the entrance, you can see the water funnels down through, and that's why it's covered up the archaeological evidence. There's several feet of sediment, and it keeps getting reburied and recovered up. You can see it's not very big, but it goes much deeper if it were to ever be cleared out. You can see some of the crystals there. We're going to get better views of some crystals here in a minute. But taking a look down inside, it is not very deep, but you see those really cool formations up above. They hang down. They look like stalactites and stalagmites, but they're formed with entirely different processes. They're entirely different chemicals, and they're far weaker than actual cave formations. You can see a few more of these crystals up here. I can point some of these out. Some of these are calcite crystals. You get calcite, you get Herkimer diamonds, and you get topaz. You get a wide range of crystals that form in this. Now, here's a LiDAR scan. Hopefully gives you a better idea of what's here. Try to do these LiDAR scans to give you a feel for what it looks like, and pay close attention to the ceiling, to the top, to the roof. And again, it's all the caves in this area have this cool pitting, almost like proto-stalactites up above. It's really, really kind of neat to see. Now here's some of the crystals. Again, the lighting is not the best. I wish this showed up better. And again, my camcorder fell out, it would have shown better. But here's some more crystals. And we're going to take a look at there's a big one there. And again, when you take these out and get them in the light, they shine, they sparkle. They're actually pretty impressive. But let's go ahead and take a look down below. Let's go ahead and if we dig in here, like I said, there's hundreds of knives buried in this site. And you don't have to go down far to see them. There's one of them. This looks to be made out of agate. And again, this is just a very simple stone hand knife. This was used to carve the soft rhyolite up above to get crystals out. And as always, after looking at it, taking some film, I'm going to put it back and bury it.
Okay, well, I'm in the cave and I've lost my video camera. So hopefully you can hear this. There's a bit of a breeze. I'm gonna have to go backtrack on the trail and see if I can find it. So I'm just recording this with my iPhone. The tricky thing when you're trying to film in these kind of places is it's good to get high quality, but it's also good to get a fisheye lens so you can try to actually get more of a sense of what it's like to actually be in these places. That's why I do the LiDAR scans as well. I've got some really good sound equipment and I can't use it because I'm just filming this on my phone. So hopefully you can hear this without too much disruption from the air. But I'm in the cave now. You can see it's not very deep. In this area right in front of me here, I a lot of times will dig this out and lay down an elk hide and just come take a nap here in the summer. The area right up above me, right here, you can see that dark streak. Water comes down through here and washes out. I've seen cougars up here. Routinely, cougars love to stay in this spot. And right now there's a bunch of little holes from what looks like antelope ground squirrels. And there's probably scorpions here as well. But this was a place that was used anciently to harvest crystals. Any cave in this entire site at this location, you know, people camped in, played around in, did whatever, and people have been doing that ever since. Some of these crystals are huge. As you can see, pointing up at this one here, some of these crystals are absolutely massive, and people anciently tried to take these out. It's a good way to do it. It's a good source. This is the same kind of sediment that we find topaz in. So you could find topaz, calcite, Herkimer diamonds, a lot of different types of crystals form in this type of rhyolite. And ancient people saw the value of that and would get it. Now, crystals have a lot of value as well, not only as decoration or something of beauty, but also as something that you can use for drilling. Most crystals are very hard, and you can use them as a drill, as a hand drill. But this site, I'm going to get back on track. I got to go try to find my camcorder. And but again, this is one of the smallest caves up here, but this one, I routinely, there's always buried in the sediment, there's always hand knives for harvesting the crystals out of the rock itself. And so somebody here, you know, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, sat right where I'm sitting and carved into this rock. Now, this rock itself is really flaky. It comes off extremely easy, if you can see that. And so even if you spend any time in this cave, you have stuff flaking off and getting in your hair. It's really kind of nasty because it gets all in there really deep. But it's really cool to think that somebody was here that long ago in the same site trying to harvest crystals. I think that's pretty neat.
Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this cave. It's small, but again, it's archaeologically significant. This entire site has history going back 10,000 years all the way to the present. This site is currently considered very sacred to the Goshute tribe that lives very close by. But I hope you enjoyed seeing this and experiencing it. And I hope seeing the LiDAR scans and seeing the drone shots helps a little more to give you a feel for what this site was actually like. Again, sites like this are so beautiful and they're so inspiring to visit and to get a sense and a feel for what it was like in ancient times. If you haven't already, if you could hit subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. It helps me keep this up and going. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see on this channel. And always remember that life is a gift. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.